I love the God. It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up, so what can make a better me?
Well, there we are. Welcome to the Pommy and Fazz show live. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm joined, as always, as the name says on the tin, by the big Fazz man. How are you going, Fazz?
Well, what you see is what you get, and it is, the Pommy and Fazz show. So, it's good to be here after a pretty abysmal week, to be honest. But get up and about on a Wednesday. It's the best night of the week.
It is a ump day, as we say, ump day. Welcome to Paul Hill and Jesse Goldworthy, I believe, who was just disappeared off my screen, became members of the channel just now. Much love to you. Thank you very much, Paul. Good evening, Patrick. Good evening, Gox. Good evening, Nathan. Sorry, it was Nathan Goldworthy. It was you. Sorry, I don't know what I called you at first. Sorry. Evening. Yep, indeed, mighty Hibs. Hibs are the Edinburgh. The Queen of Chat is here. Everyone's loving Fazz's hat. Who've you got on there? Mickey Gibbons.
No, it's a little bit of Blinky from The Simpsons. So yeah.
Just so everyone knows, I did know who that was. Before you all lose respect for me.
I was a bit worried, but yeah, no,
yeah. But we do start this week. I see a few of you are saying free Crips with a segment. Let's have a look.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.
Blues news, and ironically, we want retribution. Why do we want retribution? Crips has got a fortnight off as Gox joins the channel as well. Welcome to you. Ashley says hello to you. So obviously we've got Crips out for 2 weeks, Chat and Fazz. When you saw that in real time, how did you react?
Real time, straight away, I thought weeks. Straight away, I thought weeks. And just purely because of what they're trying to do with protecting their head and all that. I think the fact that it was a handball contest rather than if marking contest, maybe not, but handball contest, it just, he's probably been punished because he's too big, and that's unfortunate. But my immediate reaction was, it doesn't look good. I didn't possibly think 2. I was more leaning on the 1 with a possible fine, but I'll be honest, I did think it didn't look great at live.
Yeah, let us know in chat what you guys were saying. Paul's agreeing with you. It's interesting, actually, because I did tell you all a lie yesterday who did the watch along, because one of my mates, I promised I'd read this out, a mate of mine, Adrian. I said on the show yesterday when we were doing the watch along for the tribunal that I thought he might be in trouble. And he said, Pom, you lying dog. These are the quotes as it happened from your live stream on the watch along. That's it, lads. That's it, Cripper. Effing kill him. Don't let him get up. Effing kill him. So they were my official thoughts. Gav will probably back that up as well because he was watching it. You were at the game, weren't you? Sorry. So obviously since then, after the 2 weeks, the club has actually taken it further. They've gone to the additional judiciary panel. Thoughts before we get in on the ins and outs and that? Thoughts in the chat? I can see a lot of you are proud we're standing our ground. Is that something that you would have done, A, Fazz, and B, what is your initial thoughts of it?
It's a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll probably make a few enemies here, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. Hitting a bloke hard is not leadership, in my opinion. Leadership is getting the basics right 100% of the time. When was the last time Scott Pendlebury hit a bloke hard, for example? But he's the best leader in the game. And look, I like how Paddy Cripps plays. I love the aggression. I love how tough he is. See ball, get ball. He's a tough player. But before you're going to be doing that, how about you hit a target inside 50 first? How about you hit your handballs every time? That's leadership. Doing the basics right 100% of the time, and then knock the bloke. Fine. But to me, I'm not saying he's a good leader because of it. I'm not saying he's a bad leader because of it. I just think it's a nothing. It doesn't make him good or bad either way.
I agree with that. I think some people misinterpreted what he did. I mean, I agree here with Mitch. I thought when I watched it back, I didn't think there was much that Cripps could do. Do you know what I mean? I thought Cripps was in the play. You've made a run for your own back here as well, Fazz. There's not much I can do to defend you from the people. I thought it was a footballing thing, and I'm glad the club has appealed it. Do you know what I mean? I think it's good that the club have appealed it. My one caveat to it is, and I'm sure it won't, I just hope they don't distract them. So I did my preview today. I was really hot on that someone gets the gig to be Cripps indirectly. Cripps has always taken 90% of our stoppage and centre bounces. So someone is going to have to jump up at least 10%. I hope that doesn't detract them. Obviously, I'd rather play with Cripps without. But I do think, and I don't want to sound like exactly like Gab says, I think we've got to back him in. And I think this is an opportunity now for someone to step up. And I'll reiterate what I said in my video. This club is 158 years old. This club has had a history steeped in it nearly every year then. And these last 22 years of this millennia have been a little bit barren. And there is a great opportunity for Cripps not just to share his story to the players. He came in as a young pup, the apprentice to the great Judd. Judd went down. He had to take the mantle. And for 3 of these 6-7 years, poor Cripper has really had to lead the club on his own as a player. It was only recently that he's had the talent round. I would love Cripps to share that story. Maybe give us a bit of the self-doubt to the players. I'm sure there's been self-doubt. Will I ever play finals? Should I have stayed? Especially when you've got Mark Murphy next to you, who has since said he had offers at Richmond, Geelong, but he stayed because he believed in the job. And then look at these players and say, one of you's got to step up, right? And it's 2 weeks, and I think there's a fantastic opportunity, should he not play, for someone to be remembered. Because if they win one of these 2, which they can do it, it's just, do they believe they can? I think you are fast-tracked to be this generation's, you'll be remembered very quickly. You'll be very quickly. And whether that's a Dow, whether it's who I think it should be, a JSOS, massive opportunity. So obviously Carlton are a better team. I do like the make a stand. Put it out to the audience. Do you think he'll get off, or do you think the AFL will double down and keep the suspension?
For me, going back to what you said, as far as people standing up, you know, I have thought about it quite a bit today in regards to motivation and how to get the boys up and all that. And honestly, I think it comes down to as simple as, you know, again, this might annoy a lot of people, but you kind of got to look at these boys and say, don't do it for the fans, don't do it for the coach, do it for yourself and do it for your mates. And I think, you know, because you never know when it's all going to be over. You know, you're sitting there at training, having fun with your mates, doing what you love to do, and then bam, it could all be over. You know, can you look yourself in the mirror, look your mate in the eye, and know that you did everything you could? Because it's a tough gig. And life is tough, and you get nowhere in life if you're not willing to scrap and fight and bite your way to anything that's worth it is hard to get. So I'd be standing in front of the boys and saying, look at Cripper, look what he's done for us. Exactly what you said. Look at Murphy. Too long we've had this Messiah complex. Fev, Judd, Cripps. Soon it'll be Walsh. It's done. Look to the bloke to your left. Look to the bloke to your right. Can you look that person in the eye and say, you have done enough? Can you sleep tonight knowing that you have given everything you can? Or are you just going to do it and are you just going to go and let someone else do it? Is that what we're about? Let someone else do it. And to be honest, I'm jack of it. I'm actually so sick of blokes not backing their mates, because that is the definition of being a coward. When you let someone else do the hard work, when you let someone else go through the pain and suffering, you're a coward. Back your mate. Look him in the eye and say, I've done everything I can for you. Not for the football club, not for the fans, for you, my mate.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. And sayaf, thank you very much. $15 donation. You're looking stunning tonight, Pom. #free Cripper. Do you think he gets off, Fazz? As we're looking in the chat, a lot saying they think he'll get off. Do you think he'll get off?
My gut feeling says no. It doesn't. How often does it happen? Really?
Mate, I'm with you. I've got a feeling, yes, they can, Mohammed. What they do is if they adjudge it to be in the realms of count, firstly, they've got to judge the count and have a claim for appeal. So that's what they've got to judge first by the club. They've got to look at it and be like, okay, yes, Carlton are telling the truth. There is an issue. So they have that on. Was there an error of the law? They'll look at first. Was the decision unreasonable? And did the tribunal go against previous evidence and previous positioning? Classification of the offence. Was it excessive or inadequate? And a sanction imposed. Was that fitting of the crime? So they will look at that. You would imagine Carlton are looking at law 2, because obviously they did focus heavily on the Rioli one.
Yeah.
But they could do. So, Mohammed, they could reassess it and say it's only a week. So that could be it. I've got a feeling like Nathan and some of them, I feel like what Fazz is saying is spot on. I think that the AFL, do you know what I mean? I think the AFL have looked at this and they were very strict when they said he should have tackled him, which I thought was absolutely bizarre, which says to me the AFL are looking to it. And I want to put this out there. I don't think if that was Patrick Cripps there, I don't think he would have got 2 weeks. I think if that was a Zach Fisher or someone, but history says with the AFL, if you're a brand name and there is an adaptation of the rule, they do come hard. And what better player to come down on than a man that is playing the easiest position in the league to get done for, who's never done it. So it's a great example, and that's what I fear. I do like the fact the club has contested it, but exactly like I said this last night as well, Gab, split-second decision. Do you know what I mean? And I subscribe to the Eddie Jones philosophy. Do you know what I mean? He has a priority with the head rule. Rule number 1, win the fucking ball back. Rule number 2, win the ball back and protect yourself. And rule number 3, win the ball back, protect yourself. And if there's any room left, worry about the opposition. Do you know what I mean? So that's how he treats his boys. Priorities getting the ball back, looking after yourself. And if there's collateral damage and you've done the first 2, bully for you.
Yeah, no, look, I agree. And I said at the top of the show, I feel like Cripps has got done because he's big. You know, it's an unfortunate situation. My question that I'd be asking, and I don't know if anyone would be you know, brave enough to ask the question, is I would have straight up said, would he have been suspended if Archie wasn't concussed? Because they didn't even pay a free kick. So that's my question. And then that it adds to the debate of action versus result and all that stuff. But yeah, would he have been suspended if Archie wasn't concussed? And I think the answer is probably no. To me, that's your argument. Like they've set a precedent, you know.
It's one of them things though. You've seen bumps and players roll their ankle. Do you know what I mean? Fair bumps. You see injuries in fairness and in unfairness. Do you know what I mean? You also see a lot of these callous unfootball acts that they call them. The player gets up and carries on as if nothing's happened. As soon as you're concussed, even though the AFL rulebook says they don't take the consequence into action, soon as you're concussed, you're looking fucked. Let's be honest. Yeah. As soon as someone's concussed, it's so game
anyway,
over.
It's and look, and I think the AFL have made a rod for their own back. They've set the precedent with the Rioli situation and all these other ones. I mean, the tackling it drives me insane. Even the Bruce one on merit, you know, like he's coming with the elbow. Yes, he didn't get him. Like he got him on the shot, but the act. Like I heard Tim Kelly got suspended because of the potential to cause injury. Well, Bruce coming in with an elbow, he didn't connect, yeah, but the potential to break the bloke's jaw or cheekbone, surely that come into account. So there's too many grey areas where it's, like I said, Bruce coming with the elbow, oh no, he didn't connect with the head, so it's okay. Well, next week he might connect with the head and put a bloke out for the rest of the season. Do you know what I mean?
Very inconsistent. The one thing the AFL are consistent at is inconsistency. Let's take a few of your comments in here. I understand if he elbowed him in the head, but Archie hit the head on the ground. I mean, there is a great argument as well if you watch how Cripps lands. Cripps lands on top of him, which I would suspect would have brought him into the concussion state because his head retracts off the ground. Now, gravity, you can't find gravity. So, do you know what I mean? It's a weird one. You can't jump towards the head to get the ball and punch it away from contest. It's not marking contest. Trying to not have bias here. Spot on. I mean, that's what they tried to argue as well. And I did find it weird, though, that their lawyers, in their review, they said that they felt if Cripps was telling the truth, he would have tackled him, which I do think causes another problem. If you've ever played rugby, I played in an era where you were allowed to tackle in the air when your feet left the ground. And I can tell you, if someone takes your waist from below you when you're on the ground, you try landing safely. You're in the arms of the gods. I would much rather Cripps bump me midair than try and tackle me and flip me. Because the chances are, if I'm in the air and you bump me, I'm going to go on my side and protect my vital organs. I thought that was very dangerous what they're saying, that the suggestion is tackle him under the legs.
When I heard that as well, I nearly fell off my chair. Mid-air tackles, there's a reason it's outlawed in all other sports, is because you tackle mid-air, you land them on their head, they break their neck. I when I heard that, I'm like, so you're saying that players can tackle in the air now? Is that what you're saying? Because that is such a dangerous precedent.
Mate, you know what, though? This week, if I was Toby Green, I'd tackle someone mid-air, get excited, and I would go into this review and say, well, you suspended Cripps. Do you know what I mean? Like, you told me that I had to tackle him mid-air. I mean, do you know what I mean? I'm sorry the guy's currently in hospital trying to remember his wedding day, but I did what you did. You asked me to do. You know what I mean? It's weird. And like Carl says, there has to be some... I think the biggest scare for me, and we'll get onto it a bit later, is the AFL are making a precedent here where you're starting to take safety, which is common sense for a lot of players in how they're trained, and redefining it, which I think is going to cause more problems. But that being said, I love this. I think it's a good conversation. We're all fired up about it. Let's have a look at the next segment.
Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Fuck me, I'm looking in the mirror, so foggy, but I've never seen clearer. I don't really...
AFL agendas. So obviously it's been we're at the best point of the season, really, aren't we? I mean, let's be honest, 23 weeks really of football for the sake of 4 weeks. What a bizarre league we live in. You know what I mean? What a bizarre realm. But what we've got is a challenge for you all to put your favourites to least favourites. So I want tell you what, we'll make it easy. Your favourites to win it and your two dark horses. So who do you think is going to win it if you were putting your house on it? But if you wanted some cheeky gambling tips, who are the other two teams you're watching?
Oh. Do you want me to go?
Yeah, go on.
All right. So my favourites are Geelong. If I were to put the house on it, it's Geelong at this stage. Don't think they've got a weakness. I think,
Not Collingwood?
No. Well, yeah. No, Geelong are my favourites. My dark horses are... I've just crossed out one because I'll get banter for it. So my dark horses are the Swans. I think the Swans they look like they're coming pretty good at the right time. And I'd throw Melbourne in there as well. I wouldn't say they're a dark horse, but as far as Geelong are my favourites, but I think Swans and Melbourne are my next picks.
Can I just confirm that Melbourne was the Pies, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I can see. I crossed it out. You can see.
I teed him right up there for your chat. Tell you what, I do God's work. So we've got a lot of people agreeing with you. Geelong to win it. So, interesting. It's funny this. I actually think the favourites to win it, my favourites, if I was putting money on it, is I don't trust Geelong. I think even though Geelong are the favourites, I think if you're talking in like my personal favourites, I don't trust them. They're Tottenham. Do you know what I mean? They are Tottenham. When it comes to an MCG game, it'll be the week before Chris Scott Guide. We should play in the Outback in our home ground at the GMHBA. It's a joke. The AFL haters, they'll play someone good at the G. They'll get rolled out in the next set when it's an elimination. So I don't think that. I think the favourites, logically, my favourites for it are actually Richmond. I know that might surprise someone. I think their form is coming in at the right time. I think they've got the experience. I think they'll start adding the players as well. You can guarantee week one of finals, Dustin Martin's hamstring is miraculously good. I can see an announcement 2 weeks in that, Dustin Martin's quitting the game, retiring, and invoking a bit of 2017. So I actually think Richmond are the team. Thank you very much, Ben. Go and buy some chocolate, some Fazlet, some chocolate. But my dark horses for this one. Dun, dun, dun. I think the ones that no one are talking about, Fremantle. Defense wins flags. And I think that they might just get it right. I think they're a team that I wouldn't want to play. And I've avoided the trap. I wanted to say Collingwood, but I don't want the chat to hate me like they hate Fazz.
The one thing I'll say with the likes of a Fremantle or Sydney is we see it time and time again, the importance of the MCG, which is why I really like your Richmond call. And I think Collingwood and Richmond have the Melbourne as well to an extent, but Collingwood and Richmond have the two biggest leg ups going into finals. Because every single one of their finals will be at the G, unless they're at the away team. So yeah, with the Fremantle, I love Fremantle, I love it. But the only little asterisk I've got on them is if they get stuck playing a Collingwood or a Richmond at the MCG, I don't know, a little star next to them. I like your thinking, but I just worry about the MCG factor.
Do you know what I mean? I just think, and I agree here with Anthony. Do you know what I mean? They did make Optus to be the MCG clone. I just think, they get a bit of good weather. Do you know what I mean? I know history suggests they're poor here, but do you know what I mean? I think that backline, I think the way they can play, I think in a grand final, in finals type things, I think that their heads down back are very senior as well. They're not going to be phased, and it will all come down to their midfield and their forward line. But
I like it.
We'll talk about
they play a finals brand.
Yeah, exactly. We talk about the two teams that I think do play finals brands as well. Two polar ends. And again, thank you again for another $3 donation from Ben. I know Carl doing your head in, mate. You've only got to watch my content. You've only got to watch my content to know how up and down these boys make me. The two teams we haven't talked about, obviously, are Collingwood and Carlton as well. So everyone in chat, I know predominantly you're Carlton fans. If we look at it, let's just say Cripps is scrubbed out for 2 weeks. So he's out for 2 weeks. He's still training though. Gets to rest the body, take on some electrolytes, WD-40 them joints. Chances are as well, looking at Carlton's injury quarter as well, there is a good chance that Cunners will have played a VFL game before that final. Zach Williams will have played a VFL game as well before that final. So they've been quite bullish on Zach Williams the first week. Do you know what I mean? Of finals that he will be available. And also Jordan Boyd, interestingly, first week of finals. What would you think if Carlton were in the finals? Let's say Carlton finish 8th. That's what they'll have to play. Probably when you look at the fixtures remaining, it's probably either Brisbane or Brisbane, Sydney, or Freo. Let's say it's Let's say will Collingwood slip up? I can't see it. I think it'll probably be Brisbane or Sydney. What do you think? That would be a repeat, wouldn't it, if it's Sydney? It would be a repeat of the last time we got there and got eliminated. What do you think the chances are?
Yeah, well, I think thinking back, actually, Michael Voss coached Brisbane team, knocked us out in an elimination final way back when, and then Sydney knocked us out in an elimination final, and then Sydney knocked us out in a semi-final as well after we'd beaten Richmond, was it?
Yeah.
And so it'd be pretty hard trip. I can't see Sydney not being in the top 4 personally. I think it's more likely to be Brisbane. As you know, those who watch the show, I actually don't rate Brisbane at all. I think we can do them at the Gabba. I think we can. I know you say, oh, look what happened on the weekend, but we were shit house. We didn't rock up. We played 10 minutes of good footy, whatever. Nearly got back into it in the second quarter. I wouldn't mind playing Freo in Perth. We've beaten them there before. Actually, it sounds bizarre because we're hanging on by the skin of our teeth. There's not really any team that would really worry me in a big game. And I'm not saying we win it all, but there's not a team that I'm going to bed thinking, oh, geez, I don't want to play them. And for the Richmond talk, I've got them out of the top 8 by the end of the round. So I don't know if they're a lock, to be honest. But anyway, that's just me.
Each to their own. Each to their own. I can't see it. I think the way to experience, I think even with the injuries they've got, I think, they are way. I think they don't get enough respect. But I mean, it could be Melbourne as well, could finish 5th, depending on what happens as well.
When Melbourne lose this week, do
you know what I mean? They could even finish 6th, you know what I mean? And everyone jumps them. But what do we think? Do we think in chat and everyone else, say they get to the finals, there is a good argument that a good friend of mine who works at Melbourne said that there is huge pressure for clubs as you get close to finals. And then once you're in the finals, it's a new form of pressure. He said it's a new form of pressure. So he did put to me when I caught up with him today that there could be an element of Carlton shitting themselves because the club has built this up playing finals. And he said you could see a new Carlton week 1 of finals. Do you know what I mean? In the terms of that's gone. Once it's cemented, they're like, thank fuck for that. Do you know what I mean? We've done it. We've limped over the line. A little bit like Andy Murray. He lost, 7 Grand Slam finals before he won one. And he said that he had to fall over. He needed one to fall over, and then he knew he belonged. Well, do you think we could threaten a team in the final?
100%. I mean, I think any team can. I mean, you take the last fortnight out of it, and Carlton have been it was only a month ago they were talking about us as a potential challenger. So you get it right, of course we can. It's just about getting it right. Now, I mean, there is I've said it before, do we want to fall into finals, do we want to win one, whatever, each to their own. I think obviously I want to win one of the next 2, obviously, but hey, I'm not going to scoff a chance to play finals if we don't, we fall in. There's a very real chance we have qualified for finals before our game against Melbourne even happens. St Kilda play Brisbane Friday night. Brisbane beat St Kilda. Then Doggies play GWS Saturday Arvo. GWS beat the Doggies and they can't make it. So we're playing finals. Do you know what I mean? Like and that's obviously, might not happen, but you talk about the pressure being off. There is a very real possibility that before the opening bounce of our game against Melbourne, there's no pressure at all. But mate, if St Kilda beat Brisbane and Doggies beat GWS, then mate, it's squeaky bum time. It's just swings and roundabouts. And I'm sure we're not the only ones talking about it. I'm sure every club's talking about it. But the reality is this is the reason we banked wins early on in the season.
Mate,
You look
points
at
on
listen,
runs on the board is better than hypothetical ones.
Exactly. What did I say? I said to one of my kids at school who was giving me absolute stick because he thinks Carlton are going to drop out. I said, mate, and he's saying, oh, they're going to overtake. And I said, mate, would you rather $1 million here right now or the chance to get $1 million next week? And I don't think he really understood the concept of what I said. But the point remains, would you rather have the $1 million in the back pocket right now or the possibility of maybe getting $1 million? Of course you have it right now.
There's a great story as well, how you could explain that to the kid, to digress a little bit. So there was a great story I heard once where someone asked a dad, the kid asked a dad, what's the difference between theory and reality? And he was like, excellent question, son. I can answer you that. Go and ask your mother, would she sleep with a next door neighbor for $500,000? And he went up there and asked his mum, and his mum was like, oh, the next door neighbor. Oh, he's old and gross. $500,000? Oh, $500,000. Yeah, I'd do it. And he comes back downstairs, says to his dad, Mum says yes. And he's like, okay, cool. Now go and ask your older sister. So she goes upstairs, asks his sister. Sister says yes as well. And he goes, yeah, Dad, my sister says the same, yes. And he goes, well, do you see the difference now, son? And he's like, no, not really. And he was like, well, in theory, we're millionaires. But in reality, we live with 2 pairs of hose. So there you are. There's the difference between what Fazz was saying. So next time you're at school, you can use that explanation.
I'll roll that one out. It'll go down well.
Roll that one out and get sacked. So yeah. I'm with all of you in chat. I think that I agree with your dad as well. I think that if Carlton if Carlton finish 9th, I don't think anything the club say is correct. I think they shit themselves. I think it's a horrible year. And I think that's it. But I do think that once them shackles are off mentally, when they're in the finals, we go back to what we knew. Big brand, brave, first to the ball, hard at it. And when you're in finals, you only get one shot, don't you? And I'd love to see that over the next 2 weeks, with or without Cripps. A little bit of a trial in that of, you know what? I don't mind. Like I said it in my preview, I don't mind if they go out and lose by 40 tomorrow on Saturday. Go out there and give it all, though. Go back to that way. Attack. Get the 40-point lead that we used to see. And then we're clinging on. Because in the final, remember Collingwood versus Richmond when Richmond were odds on to win? And Mason Cox suddenly thought he was Tony Lockett. They got 3 or 4 goals ahead and Richmond started to crumble. And that's what we can do. So I'm with you. And I agree as well. We hide away from pies. Pies have got that brand, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? Have got that brand. And I agree with Michael here. I didn't like what Harry said. Do you know what I mean? I didn't like the fact he described success as the actual foundation of that. That's the problem. And I think people who have liked what Harry said, I think don't understand what Harry has said. And I don't think they actually understand how you do development. And I don't think they understand how you develop human beings. So he has described creating an ecosystem, which should have been done in 2015. I appreciate it hasn't been, but you wouldn't reward. And this is the way I describe it. I've got a fence that needs fixing. I've got a fence around at the moment, and he's ordered some colour bond. If he'd come round to my house yesterday and said, all right, Mr. Williams, how you doing? Yeah, it's Baz here from the Fences. Don't worry, mate. I've ordered that green colour bond from you. Job's complete, Pom. Flickers the money. And I'd be like, hang about, mate. You've got to install it. No, don't worry about that, kid. I've ordered it. You know what I mean? That's not how it works. So I think we've got to worry about it. But I'm excited. I can't wait for the next 2 weeks. We're going to see. Do you know what I mean?
And I think, look, and I think with what Harry Mackay said, now's not the time to say it. And now's not the time to say, oh, hey, this year's been better than last year. Now's not the time. When the dust settles and what happens, we go all the way and win the flag, or we don't make fun, whatever. Everything in between. When the dust settles and the test matches are on and it's the sun's out and having Christmas lunch, whatever, then's the time to reflect and say, the season actually wasn't all that bad. That's the time to reflect. Not now, not when we're in it. You can't reflect on it now. We're in it. And it's such a defeatist attitude to say, oh, this season has been a success. Well, no. We've still got 2 games to go. You can't say it like that. But I do genuinely believe there is going to be a time when the dust settles, when the pain goes away and all that blah, 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 to sit back and reflect and say, geez, that first half of the season was something I hadn't seen for 20 years. But now is not that time.
I think Paul's right as well here as well. I think Harry is the worst person in the world to front the media to ask them questions, because they get them handled before. And like Gav says, he's a happy-go-lucky guy. And the fact that's what he's described success, as Carlz has correctly said, do you know what I mean? The development based success on the improvement of culture. It's only going to go halfway. It's halfway. I mean, if that's what you view success as, fuck me. You're in for a world of hurt.
Well, look at Harry Mackay. I look at Harry Mackay and I think this, and I'm using my experience as an educator of young people, and part of me is hoping that he actually didn't understand the question, or more so, he didn't understand the ramifications of what his answer would bring. And I think that happens. You see that all the time. So I'm sure if he had his time again, he would say off-field culture, systems in place has been a success, which I think that's what he was trying to say. But I don't think he can articulate it very well. I don't think he's a great public speaker. So I'm not ready to hang him. Sorry?
He's no Churchill.
No. And I'm not ready to hang him because of that. Because, I mean, I see it all the time. I just genuinely think he might not have understood the question. Or I see it all the time with the kids at school. What was it? They only hear the first half of the question. And it might have been, if what the question was, do you think this season was a success? And then the second part was, even if you don't play finals. The way he might have read the question, I got the question, I know they're all premeditated, I know they get them, but he might have just seen, do you think the season was a success? Only processed that part of the question without, and then kind of caught on the back foot saying, oh, do you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to give him an out, but I do see it every day with that happens.
You're trying, but as my boss said, don't watch it, because if that was one of the staff members, you would be in my office demanding retraining or firing him. And my boss is quite right, because I don't like them kind of wording. But that's just me. But I'm not going to crucify him or hang him. At the end of the day, someone at the club put him up there, and I'm looking at them because I would have prepped him. But that leads us on to our wonderful bit of...
I'm taking shots at the enemy. I'm gonna make it to the top, leave a legacy. If I got something to say, you better let me speak. Turn it up a new degree, bitch, you ain't seen anything.
Fazzy's Fury, what have you got for me? So this is, just to explain, it's a new segment, but we always off-camera choose something we want to talk about. And this is separate to controversial opinions. So those who are preparing for Fazz to bury some part of some town in Australia, that'll probably come up. Fazz, what have you got for me?
Okay. So my biggest bugbear at the moment is commentators, right? Professional commentators, paid commentators, whose literally their only job is commentating footy, making simple mistakes week after week, game after game. And I'm talking obvious mistake. Like, we all might get the name wrong here, but I keep throwing back to that Brian Taylor one where Corey Durden kicked a goal. He's like, oh, I don't think he ever was doing this at North Melbourne. Obviously thinking he was Sam Durden. Ironically, Carlton picked him up as well. But I mean, you're not even talking about a similar player. You're talking about a 5'0" small forward versus a 195 centimeter key defender. And he still genuinely ran with, he was obviously the ex-North Melbourne player. One of the commentators on the weekend referred to GWS as the orange team. Well, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I had that written down. As far, and you could hear, I'm watching it, and you could hear her get caught up in it. As far as and they're going the orange team, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Do your research. That's all I want. Just do your research. If I went into my classroom every day that underprepared and would make mistakes like that time after time, I'd be out of a job tomorrow. It's inexcusable. And I know how to fix it. All right. And the way you fix it is simple. There needs to be specified commentators for each team. Think back to press red for Ed. Does everyone remember when Fox did that press red for Ed? Right? That was ahead of its time. That was ahead of its time, because I tell you what, no one knows their teams more than a specified commentator. So you're saying, so the AFL need to get out there and say, we're gonna 2 people for every club, and your job every week is to commentate that football club every week. You won't make mistakes. You won't stuff up Corey Durden or Sam Durden. You'll know that GWS are the Giants and not the Orange team. You won't make the mistakes. And I think that's the future. That's where we've got to go. The press red for Ed, he was ahead, as usual. Eddie Maguire, love him or loathe him, whatever. He's ahead of his time. That's where it needs to go.
Mate, spot on, mate. Oh, mate, what a start to Faz Fury. You've seen a half tracker and you've just plopped him away. You banged it back. No, I'm with you. And like Gang says here, they do that. I'm a big NBA fan.
Yep.
And it's always the same commentators, and you can listen to the home commentary or the away commentary. I think I'd love that, because I think it gives you something that you can just, feel connected to. I think the AFL lose that connection at times to its fan base, and they kind of lose it. I love it.
Well, 100%. And to me, it's do your research. Like, I mean, when they just make simple mistakes about, did this player, did he come back through the twos, or is this his first game? I mean, even the Carlton game, they were talking about Jack Martin. It's like, oh, he's straight back in the ones. I mean, he played a VFL game the week before. Do your research. Like, how can me, who's sitting on the key? Yes, I know I live and breathe Carlton, but I'm not paid to do that job. But they just make mistake after mistake, and it honestly drives me up the wall.
Tell you what, Sean knocking it out of the park as well. One of the Fazz herd. That's your uncle, isn't it?
Yep.
Hey, look, I'm learning the Farrells. I can spot a Farrell now. Spot on. What is with them goal line cameras? Like, honestly, we can, when Elon Musk puts a man on Mars, guaranteed there'll be a website. We can watch him having a piss in HD. And we can't, 20 minutes down the road, get a decent fucking vision. Like, I was watching the VAR this week because a penalty went against his team here. Mr. Fazz, a penalty. Haaland got his first penalty. But they showed you the footage, and, like, I could see that Haaland's knot had frayed. Like, it was that good. I could actually see it had come out of the little, whatever them plastic things are called that hold your things together. They've got a name. But a bit of thread had come out, and I was like, you are winding me up. Because if that was the AFL, I could just maybe make out a foot.
It's a great call. It's a great call. I honestly think my iPhone camera could catch better footage than some of the shit we get on the goal lines. It's a wonderful call. I mean, for the sport we all love the most, it's a Mickey Mouse organization run by a bunch of morons who have no foresight whatsoever about how to make the game better. And that's a simple one. The goal. Get on the phone. Hi, Premier League. This is Gillon McLachlan here. Any chance I could just check out your cameras that you do for VAR? Oh, no worries. All right, catch ya. I'll do it now. Like, get it done. He could have it installed for Friday night. Like,
you know what's crazy, right? Do you know what I mean? What is crazy as well is if you actually research it, it costs them 175k per ground in the UK. Right? There is only, 4 fucking football grounds in Australia. So it's not even a big expense. Is it really? And also, they don't need to VAR around the ground. So the cameras in the VAR in the UK, they're a rolling camera that is literally watching the entire ground because it could be called upon for anything. But this is just goal technology. They don't judge anything else, do they? They don't go, oh, shit, we better check on that centre bounce. Was Cripps' foot actually in the set circle? Like, they're just checking what. So it can't even be that expensive, mate. I'm with you. Well done, Sean Farrell. You've got me sidetracked. But I agree with what the chat are saying as well, with you talking about commentators. Cometti, he's the Motson to me of round ball. Motson I grew up with. I see him. Ari, good day to you. I smell a little nepotism. Whatever that word is in legacy football media. Help me out, primary school Fazz.
Nepotism.
Thank you. There we are. You've seen it all now. We're fully diverse here. An Australian teaching a Pom how to speak his own language. There it is. Fantastic. No, I agree with you, mate. Luke as well. This fucks me off as well. You know, the umpire, like, and some of them give ages as well. They'll take a mark in the middle of the ground and the umpire's like that. And then that female umpire, I don't want to get on a case, Alani, but she's like, as soon as you do this, look, the ball comes in, you take the mark. She's like, play on. And you're like, fucking hell, give him a chance to set himself, darling. I mean, it's okay. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm with you. I've enjoyed that conversation, and I've got a tough act to follow from Fazz. He set the bar this week. Let's have a look.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top.
Ah, dear. At least I've learned a new word today, if anything. If Wednesday is going to be classed as a success, there it is. My Pom's Ponder today is, right, and this is a controversial, well, it's almost a controversial, but it's not. But we are sticking with the AFL for this. AFL is more, in my opinion now, becoming a PR social agenda platform than it is a sports business. Now, I'm going to caveat this because I don't want anyone to get offended. I'm not saying I'm against the wonderful causes they do. The help they do for the Indigenous movement, the help they do for the LGBTI movement, all wonderful causes. But I feel in the terms of like Cripper getting the suspension, do you know what I mean? How they've handled the Ginnivan, I feel like that they will put a lot more effort and resource into making sure Ginnivan doesn't duck a knee than fixing the other things that are wrong with the games. So, like, I think they're looking at attendance. The price at the MCG is absolutely fucking abysmal at the moment. It's unaffordable for the real people of Australia, not the corporate dickheads in the MCG lounge. I want real working class families there. They're the real passion of this great game. They will sort that out, but the minute Cripps happens to go anywhere near someone's neck, oh, this is it. The full might of the media. John Ralph, straight away, suspend him, throw away the key. But there's people struggling to keep up with their memberships, people struggling to get down to the games. Attendance is down. Do you know what I mean? People feeling a lot more disengaged with the game in the way of what you're saying. Do you know what I mean? The fact that people don't seem to get what they want on TV. The fact that all the AFL shows now are being priced, are being cut down and watered down. Let's go back to what this game is about. And that's the people. This is the game of the people. This is like round ball. This is the game of the people. It's not for rich middle class people. In the immortal words of Roy Keane, football is for real working class people, and the dickheads in suits write the checks. That's all you're there for. Right? Bring it back to the people. Make it affordable. Like Ray says there, $200 to take your kids to the footy. Come on, AFL. Stop this nonsense. Do you know what I mean? You plow all this research, all these wonderful causes. Focus on what makes this game the best game in the world. And that is the novelty of it. The fact there's nothing like this. Do you know what I mean? The fact that the players now have to watch themselves, even in the dressing rooms. Do you know what I mean? Because they've got cameras there. Do you know what I mean? Go back to the old days where we could go in for the dressing rooms and the players could have a beer and be there stark bollock naked, patting your son on the head. Let's go back to how it was, because it's becoming now a PR marketing machine. and we're forgetting what makes this great game brilliant.
Spot on. Absolutely spot on. I think you outdid me, but no, that's brilliant. And you're right. And we talk about the money to go to the footy. I mean, I remember, it used to just be you wake up in the morning and you'd be like, hey, you want to go to the footy? Yeah, cool, let's get it done. See you there. But now it's like you've literally got to plan it out weeks in advance because, one, you've got to make sure, is your team playing because they keep floating the fixture, and also, do we have enough money to be able to do it this weekend? And so it just becomes, it's so expensive, so expensive.
And it's sad because we're losing a generation, and I mean this nicely, but there seems to be so much focus on just tosh. To me, it almost feels like the AFL would rather parade a group of young girls and say, oh, we're putting effort into the AFLW, than actually say, you know what, we're missing out on, because that's how they word it. In a 2 weeks' time when the girls' game starts, the AFLW, and I'm a big fan and a big advocate of it, they're going to start criticising people for not being there. And they're going to word it in a way that men don't like women and it's sexist and all that shit. But in reality, it's because it's piggybacked into the arse end of the season, and it's not even commercialized properly. Do you know what I mean? That's why. It's not because men are sexist pigs. It's because your whole talk is bollocks about it. The same with the game. Like here, look, like Jacana, $65. Do you know what I mean? That's way too much. Do you know what I mean? And like Luke says as well, there was a wonderful old lady. Do you know what I mean? An old lady who, at our local primary school, she, to fundraise, made mittens when it was cold, and she painted the monogram, knitting. The AFL actually sent her a cease and desist letter, an 82-year-old woman, because she was using it. Like, come on, AFL, man. Come on.
They got no idea. And my biggest thing as well is, what's the point of having these big stadiums if they're only going to be half full? You may as well, if you're going to charge an arm and a leg and only select people can go to the footy, you may as well have games at Princess Park and Punt Road and all that. You may as well do it because they're not filling the stadiums out anyway.
Mate, Spawn, and this is it as well. It's the simple stuff like Fab is saying here. Everything is smoke and mirrors. So you can't criticize the umpires. Even the AFL now go as far as saying social media hate to the umpires, right? Fuck the umpires, right? Why can't we be transparent? Like Fab's saying here, and he's spot on. Kim Jong-un is more transparent than the AFL. But do you know what I mean? If there is a little social media fucking cause that they can get around, Jesus, they'll put a lot of effort into that. But actually improving the game, and this is what annoys me. I love these social causes. I'm a believer that sport has the wonderful opportunity to remove race, remove gender, remove everything. When I was a kid, the first time growing up in the north, I saw a man of colour and talked to them was in the terraces. Do you know what I mean? Because the village I grew up in didn't have any. And do you know what I mean? It opened my door because he was just a Rangers fan to me. What scares me the most is they forget that, they militarize that, but they don't open the game up to everyone. And I think they've got a wonderful opportunity. This is the meeting point. And exactly like Ray saying, it's for the people. It's for the people. And you can still make money from that, but make your product good first. Because without the product, you don't have these things. The product came first. That gave you the platform.
Spot on. Spot on. Love it. Great new segments there. Love that.
This is why me and Fazz won't replace Fox Footy, because we tell we tell the AFL they're dog shit every week. So it's good to see. We come to everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say, trust me when we say that we have had calls to be on Fox Footy, but no. We're about the people.
When Fox Footy do give us a contract, guaranteed the first week we get taken off there because we say Fox Footy shit.
but we're about the people. We're about the people.
And now everyone's favourite segment. And here we are, as we're coming in, $50. That is just insane. So, Fazz, what have you got for me? Usually this time of week, for those who are tuning in, this is our highest amount as well. We've peaked up to 80 at times to this stream. This is usually the moment Fazz buries some town in Australia. Who are we burying this week?
Well, I'm not burying a town, but I'm about to bury Carlton supporters.
So, oh, God. Here we are.
So my controversial opinion today is I've seen it once, I've seen it 1,000 times. People demanding and wanting Liam Stocker and Brodie Kemp to come in and play midfield this week. Behave, guys. All right, behave. Oh, but they were recruited as midfielders, Fazz. Okay, so is every player in the competition, other than key position players. They can all play midfield. They have not played a minute of midfield time since coming to the club, and now you want to just say, "Hey, let's throw them in against Melbourne, the absolute, the biggest midfield going around." And I understand the logic. Oh, big bodies out, we need to put big bodies in. I get it, I understand it. But if you're going to go head to head with Melbourne in the big body department, it is suicide. All right, we have to be smart. All right, the obvious thing is set a field, Kemp, Stocker in the midfield. Yeah, look at us, big bodies in there. You've got to be smarter because even with Cripps, Kennedy, and Hewitt, there's no guarantee we would have beaten them in that area anyway. So it'd be suicide to go head to head to them. Go faster, Richmond style. Focus from scoring off the half back, all right? Not relying on centre clearances. Change our game, all right? We can't rely on centre clearances this week. I get it. I understand the romance, Kemp and Stocker, but it's suicide. And I'm sick of seeing it, to be honest. That just shows me that you're not watching.
Mate, I agree with you. I think there's... I can see where you're coming from. And I don't think you're being harsh there. I think that... Like the people are saying here, you've got Zach Fisher there. You've got Setterfield. Do you know what I mean? Most improved player 2020. Do you know what I mean? In that position. There's still a lot of midfielders. J-Sauce. Do you know what I mean? I'm a big fan of that. So for me, I think it's a huge risk because when you look at Stocker, and this is a good question by Fab, recently in the twos, you've started to see him play a little bit pinch hitting in the midfield, which is where I think his future is. But can you imagine making your debut? Like the big thing with me with Kemp is he wasn't drafted as a midfielder. That is a fallacy.
Yeah.
Bendigo Pioneers
it's a common misconception.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I remember doing his draft profile for him, so I saw a lot of Brodie Kemp as draft. But what is very common when you're a player like him is you play on the ball in spurts because it's a big body and his moves agile. He ended up playing 3 games and then doing his ACL. But he was always a swing man. He was a backman who played forward second year, punted some good little goals, could pinch it. Mate, the worst thing you could do for his confidence is play him on the ball with no prep. With no prep as well. The only time he's gone in midfield is when he's changed ends.
Yeah, and that's the thing. My biggest thing as well, like I said, it frustrates me because it shows me that you're probably not watching VFL footy if you're calling for these guys to come in. But it's also showing me that you're not using your brain. I say it's the same what I said about Collingwood. If you try and match Collingwood with their pressure, it's suicide. You've got to be smarter. You've got to do something different. And I tell you now, if Carlton do go in like that with the naming those players and trying to play a big-bodied midfield, then the coaching staff haven't thought deeply enough about it. All right, you've got to be smart, guys. We've got to be smart. Let's go in with a midfield of Walsh, Chera, Fisher. Try and be smart. Except we're not going to win majority of the centre clearances, so set up our back six to run and gun like Richmond do, like Collingwood do. Just change it just for this week. Just get that W. I don't care. I think someone said it the other night. I don't care if we win by kicking 4 goals. As long as Melbourne only kick 3. Get the W, walk away, and then worry about our game plan. But this is not the week to go in and say, we're backing our system. It's not the week because our system will not stand up because we can't have our big-bodied midfielders that we need. It won't stand up. So they've got to be smarter.
Mate, spot on. Do you think, some people asking, is Fish going to be on the ball? Big Fish is in chat. I think he'll play on the ball. I agree with Quenton here. You've got to trial something, but I wouldn't trial it in seniors without the prep in VFL.
No, but Quenton, we're saying the exact same thing. I'm saying trial something different. Trial a different set of midfielders, not big body out, big body in.
No,
especially when especially when we've got the big bodies that aren't going to cope.
And I don't think as well, without getting sidetracked on this subject, because we have got the question section coming up. I think in the first, especially between round 6 and 10, they suddenly started to appear number 1 in the transition, number 1 in the corridor attack, number 5 in rebound, in 50 to 50 arc ball movement. There was a new dimension, even though they had quite a slow midfield, they'd manufactured it. And it's funny that it's disappeared in the last couple of weeks. So I think it's a perfect opportunity to go a little bit smaller and say, you know what? Let's go hard. And exactly like Tarek says, run harder together, different core, different contingent, and force it. My controversial opinion, I think some people will like this in the chat. I thought long and hard how to word this, right? My Pommy's ponder. I think AFL social media, particularly based on Carlton's, is becoming an ego thing. And it worries me a little bit for fans. Now, I want to read you the importance of the fans, because my real team, Rangers, overcame a 2-0 goal deficit last night to make the Champions League, right? And a young Belgian footballer who was only just been in the club for 5 minutes said these words. When you come here, you understand very quickly the gravity of who you're really playing for. It's the 45,000 people that were here tonight, and across the globe, the 10 million watching. I felt every fan breathe that ball into the net for me. They made the cross with me. They made the tackle. By the 80th minute, we knew it was going to be tough, but we were just willed across. But when you sign for a club of this magnitude, you know who you're playing for. I want to thank the fans tonight. This one's for you. Thank you for getting us through that, right? So the fans are huge. The fans are huge. Now, I know this is a new concept in Australia because I hear this a lot. Fans don't do anything. Absolutely, incredibly not true. And if you've ever spoke to a professional athlete, they'll tell you that we do a lot for them when the chips are down. But what I'm saying is, it feels like now either people are actually stupid, and that is a possibility. I'm going to keep that as a possibility. But it feels like now you can't be critical, because if you're critical of a team, you don't care about the team. Do you know what I mean? Where how I was brought up, being critical of something is because you believe there's another level. Do you know what I mean? Another level to go. Then there's another belief that if you're positive, you're a nuffy, you know nothing. But even though positivity is a huge part of improving, because sometimes when you go on a journey, it's not linear. There's troughs. So there's a great analogy I use. I am a big part of what we call the ideas board at work, and it is incredibly boring. It's been sat in a room like this, but with no banter, and it's people coming up with the most fucking stupid ideas in the world, like, we've got a B in our recycling grading from head office. Why don't we make a recycling officer on every fucking chamber? And you're like, mate, how about you just tell bastards to put things in recycle bin? But what you will find is the best ideas come from 5 or 6 different wavelengths. The negative Nancy's, the positive Percy's, who are like, this is brilliant. Recycling's brilliant. Do you know what I mean? And we're all the same family, is what I'm trying to say. So I think, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I think the wonderful thing about me versus a lot of people on socials is I try and reply to every of you, whether I agree with you or not. And genuinely, even though sometimes I might not agree with you or come across that I don't agree with you, I genuinely appreciate the conversation, because everything is an opportunity to learn. So what I'm saying is, it fucks me off when I go on Twitter and someone says, This week I would play TDK and give Pitternet a rest, or I'd drop Pitternet. I'd keep Pitternet and drop TDK, and then someone comes in and goes, "You're a fucking nuffy, what do you know?" And you know who I'm on about, because they always drop dickhead statements like this. Yeah. Oh, I used to play grade 4 football. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, fuck off, dickhead. Do you know what I mean? No one cares. Do you know what I mean? Why can't we? And exactly like Bugsbell says, collective minds. There is a great idea everywhere. As I always say when I'm training new starters and I get nervous people from school, there is no such thing as a stupid question or a stupid comment, just a stupid answer. Do you know what I mean? But every question is good. And you know what? I reckon a lot of people have these things and are scared. What scares me is I see a lot of the big personalities, and it's why I put a lot of effort in not to come across like a dickhead. So if I do come across like a dickhead, I apologize. I'm just who I am, and I love everyone, though. But I'm scared that there might be a voice not being talking, in the terms of a voice not being allowed to speak because they're intimidated by it. And I want to hear everyone's opinion, because somewhere between all of us is the next fucking flag.
I think that's really well said. A wonderful sentiment, wonderful statement. I know my experiences on social media have been quite up and down. I mean, not a couple of years ago, I was getting abused left, right, and center because I was so negative, and I'm like, well, I'm just saying how it is, really. And then more recently, this year, because I've taken a more positive approach, I'm copping abuse for being too positive. So it's like people, you know, but people are going to abuse regardless. Bullies bully because that's just what they do. My biggest thing is when people comment saying, "Well, if you don't know, then I'm just not gonna." If you don't know, then I'm just not gonna explain it. I'm like, well, people just want to get on there behind a username that's like, you know, Mark 7724567 and just abuse, and it's not relevant. Now I get it. If you're going to go on Twitter and say, all right, hey, such and such is a complete fucking useless player, I hope he dies, then you deserve every bit of abuse you're going to get, right? That's not an opinion. That's just you being an absolute melt. But if you come on and say, hey, I really don't think Paddy Dow should be playing in our midfield this week, you don't deserve to cop. You're a fucking idiot. He's a pick 3, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just, people are jerks, but we have a safe space here. And I think that's what's important. I know you guys give me stick because I've spoken about Collingwood a bit, but I know it's all in good fun, but it's a safe space. And I think that's what we create, and that's what's important.
Mate, I think, and it's not just Twitter, it's Instagram, it's everywhere. I think you've got to remember that it is a lovely, at the end of the day, we are a family. And do you know what I mean? Williams family get-togethers back when I was in the UK. There was always the family members I'm having a beer with, but there was also the family members I was glassing. Do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if one of them rang me up and said, I'm in strife, I'm the first one there. So, Mr. Farrell, I could not disagree. I'm sure your son cops a lot of abuse at the Fazz family get-togethers. So, we've got 10 minutes left. So I'm going to go over, and it's my favorite time. We get to hear from you. So let's have a listen.
Don't want to sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella shit.
Yeah, I mean, so send in your questions. We've got some good ones. Do you know what I mean? Like, we usually get some good ones. Do you know what I mean? We got some good ones, so send them in. But on that, honestly, like, there is a caveat. I mean, when you are having debates on there, it can get a bit heated. But just always remember, do you know what I mean, that we are the same people. Here's the first question: is fielding Son and Kane in FPL stupid? Well, I don't have Kane because I don't rate him, so I've got Son in him. But that's another story. But I think it is silly. Fazz?
Yeah. Look, I've got a little bit of an unwritten rule. You kind of don't want to have. It's okay to have players from the same club, but you don't want them in similar positions, because with Son and Kane, generally, if they're both on, they're fantastic. But if one's off, they're both off. So you're really playing Russian roulette there. You could actually ruin your entire week if they're both off. You're not going to get enough points. So I would be looking at Son and Haaland, or Salah and Kane, or whoever. But yeah, to try and have different people.
Or Son and Wood.
Yeah, yeah. Chris Wood, get him in.
Hope that answers your question. This is a good one, this. Brodie Grundy, so there is rumours he wants to leave. Would you have a sniff at Grundog?
Oh, I'd be having more than a sniff. I'll tell you something.
He's a Collingwood player, so I wouldn't put it past you.
No, yeah, I just want to improve the football club. Look, I don't think we're the place for him, but seeing Melbourne talk to him, I mean, people rag on Carlton's salary cap, and I heard Melbourne met with him, but Grundy to Carlton, I would do it in a heartbeat. I don't care what it'd cost. I don't care what it'd take. I don't care who. I'd do it in a heartbeat because I think that's exactly what we miss. It
would be an A grade. I'm with you, but I'd get the feeling that he'd be wanting $1 million, 1.2, and I think that might start jettisoning some players. I mean, at the moment, if we're honest, Pitternet, if he reaches his early season potential, he's B+ grade, potentially A grade if he can sustain that for a full season. It was on track as elite, but he'd have to do it for a season to be really considered. Grundy is different gravy, isn't he? He's different gravy. But as long as he don't break the bank, would John De Goey sign Collingwood with a behavioural clause in his contract?
Well, I don't think he's going to have much of a choice unless he wants to leave. But why would you want to leave Collingwood right now? I don't get it. Like, what are De Goey's options? North Melbourne, St Kilda, please. Take the behavioural contract, put your big boy pants on, win a flag and grow up.
I'm talking as an old man, but I just can't see how hard it is not to be a dickhead for 9 months.
No, I'm with you.
Maybe it's because I'm not 21 anymore. Like, maybe if 21 Pom could be fast tracked to this show and he could be like, come on, mate. But I don't understand it. But I am old. I am old. Luke Singdon, is Will Hayes a long-term mid or is he the next Nick Graham?
I wouldn't say long-term, but short to medium term. I like him. We've only seen him have one hit out, and that was against Geelong. I like what he does in the twos. I like how he plays. It's a bit too early to call him the next Nick Graham. But no, I just persist with him. Give him another year or two and see from there. Well, what's the alternative? A kid.
Mate.
I've been big on this show saying we need to get more of these senior players around. So I say we keep him.
Mate, I agree. We've got one here. Where is it? We're trying to go around the clubs here to make it fair. Where have you gone? There was the question about...
Mitch had a good one about Dyson Heppell.
Yeah, that was it. There we are. Should the Bombers be going harder to keep Dyson Heppell? The only real leader they have.
100%, 200%, 500... If Essendon let Dyson Heppell go, and I don't care, and all the comments will come in and say, oh, yeah, but he's finished, he's this. There are just some players you have to keep. He's captain of your club. He's a generation of fans' favourite player. But all that aside, what would we been speaking about last week and the week before? You need leadership at your club. You get rid of Dyson Heppell, who's next? Who do the players look to when the shit hits the fan? You have to keep these players. If Essendon don't want Dyson Heppell, I'd take him at Carlton just because you need more of those types of players. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, 100% they should be trying a lot harder to keep Dyson. I don't think there's any other way around it. If they let him go, they're falling into the same trap that Carlton fell into with their rebuild.
Mate, I agree. I think you need them leaders round there, and I think Gold Coast, with the rumours them offering such a big contract, says quite a lot. Says quite a lot for them. Gox here. Do we throw Silvani in the middle and play with the small forward players? I love Jesus in the middle. I think he is the man.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like the idea. We've seen him do a job before on when he played on Nat Fife a few years ago. But I think the thing as well about Jack Silvani, what we know is wherever you put him, he's going to give 100%. And that's all we ask.
Mate,
that's all we ask.
Mate, I agree. And I just love Jesus. You've got to remember 2 years ago, in 2019, he sacrificed his preseason to tag Cripps so Cripps could learn to deal with the tag. So I just think it's something I'd like to see him flow through this week. Just flow through. If Cripps is out, because I think I don't think you're losing anything, and I think you're adding something there. Also, the question I wanted to ask you, and this is on the basis kind of to go with Mitch's question, and this is a Carlton question. Now, the big comparisons you see us and Collingwood is obviously notable. Carlton are very similar in their makeup with young players, but the biggest change with their old players is that they've got them core players, and the AFL view the core players as the 28s and overs. Now, do you think that Carlton, and this was brought to me the other day, and I kind of thought about it for a while and thought, well, you know what? Maybe you've got a point there. Someone like Mark Murphy, do you think we maybe got rid of him a little bit earlier and they could have been merit? When you look at Adam Sard, maybe playing Adam Sard and Doc as they have been a bit further up the ground in stages. We know Voss loves that Doc on the wing. Do you think that maybe one of the wonderful things about Pendles is Pendles has been averages his touches to 7 different players in the fourth quarter? Having him off halfback in them dying moments to just steady the ship because he's been there and gone there.
I'm going to go out. I'm going to say this. Mark, there was no player has been more disrespected in the end of his career at the Carlton Football Club than Mark Murphy was. And everyone who disrespected him should hang their heads in shame, because the way we bullied that man out of our football club, you can piss right off. Because I can tell you right now, he would still be the best kick on our team. If he was playing right now, he'd still be our best ball user. I don't care. Lockie O'Brien, yeah, cool, whatever. Mark Murphy would still be our best ball user. The fact that they never tried him on halfback just goes to show that the coaches were inept that were there. Ridiculous. And I understand he had bad shoulders. I get it. But if he wanted to play on, for shit, yeah, they should have tried it. Eddie Betts is the same. What are we crying out for? I saw someone make the comment, we need to get an experienced small forward. We had an experienced small forward there who was willing to play on this year. But you know what? Sorry, mate, we're going with Corey Durden. Stop trying to get rid of players just because they're fucking 30 or 32 or 34. Oh, mate, I'd be getting on the phone to David Mundy and say, mate, you want a 12-month contract? Come down to Carlton. Stop trying to get rid of these players. It fucking does my head in.
No, I'm with you. And I think what I should have caveated it, if all things were fit and healthy. Let's just say we did the medical on him. He could have been fit. He could have got through at least a year. Because I just think, when I do look at this thing, I do think the more I think of it, why we're struggling now, it's just the mindset that we're so close that the jitters are coming in. And that's why Collingwood have such wonderful leaders to fall back on. Where at the moment, they've got Zach Williams has played finals recently, and he's not even in the team. So all of them are learning, probably experiencing this for the first time themselves for a long time. So I think it's an interesting one. I thought it was just a nice little, wonderful little subject for you all. I like that, Gox. Yeah, Gunston, someone like that. So, well, that is it for the week, ladies and gentlemen. We've got 20 minutes over. Thank you very much for your fantastic contributions. We will be back tomorrow with the EPL review. Have I lost Fazz? We'll be back tomorrow with the EPL preview and review show. Fazz, are you there?
Yeah, no, I'm here.
We'll be back there tomorrow with that. Great show
tonight.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on, man. The connection's a little bit crap.
But we'll see you tomorrow. Much love.
See you later.